Yeah, tell them, not me. Say this is right, make sure you're answering messages, especially messages like that.
Can somebody tell me, like, so this is a backup of your live database from the payroll side, which we can have a bit of a fiddle around with. Can somebody tell me, that, like, from a rostering point of view, at present when you're in the old day manager, what do you do with the branches? Like, what filters have you commonly got set?
Just wherever you work, whatever your rosters are.
So what would that be in this list? Because I've got everything at the moment.
So like I'm N Gosford and N Wyong. So that's all I will have done.
And I have 3 of them, so.
What? Who has the most?
I have all
have
of
about
Queensland
7.
sometimes.
I do.
All of Queensland. So who would have
the
them?
rostering, for live maybe.
So I have about 7.
So what ones?
So Central West, up the top there.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it's still N.
NACT,
Yep.
Illawarra, the one underneath it, and then the one underneath that again. And
So
then
4.
Arana Far West,
Sorry.
Arana Far West.
Inarana.
Oh, Inarana.
That's it, yeah,
Inarana.
sorry.
They've all got N in front of them.
Yeah. And N Riverina Murray and Southern Highlands.
Must take you 20 minutes to log in every morning.
It does. Does.
How many people are for that, all those filters?
How many support workers across the regions?
38, probably about 110 across the 3 groups.
Are you the only scheduler?
Live. Yeah, they've got forwards.
I remember when I did my interview and I was told that some people were like lives, some people were like 4s, and some people were like 5s. They can't be that different.
They are. I would much prefer to be a forward scheduler.
I told Charlie if she ever wants me to resign, she just has to say I'm going to be a live scheduler and I'll resign that day. That's
I
me.
hate live schedulers.
Never see it. But you know, if anything exciting happens, it's tough. It's not made from. I think it's.
So who's using?
It's milk.
So you got 185 rosters, 7,000 services. That's decent. Decent. So this is on the payroll server. So I just want to look at some of these processes and actually look in your live data how long it's taking in, like on a live database, because this is a copy of your live database. And just see if we can get an idea of what performance you can expect. The payroll server should be slower than your live server. It's not spec'd quite as highly, and it looks like there's quite a bit happening on it. The CPU's mostly over 40% usage. So who are all those people? I mean, I know Adamus, but like, can anybody tell me who
Karen
they?
Hancock at the top is Emil's. I can see Belinda Grant, she's a scheduler.
Virginia and Connor's a scheduler.
So why would
I
they be
can
on the?
see,
No, maybe this is the live database, the live server then, just in the payroll database. Okay.
Kelsey Purcell is a CSO.
So at the moment, for your live, it's getting booted out.
Yeah, that happens to us all the time.
So it's closing the connections.
It does happen all the time.
Is it this message that says the communication link failure?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
So that means the database has dropped out. So how often does that happen?
All the time. Daily?
Mm.
No, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
So, Rachel, do the individual users have branch filters on, or do they just always apply their own
There are more
filters?
branches in there for class. Because they cover our areas. What does the dollar sign up there mean?
That's the client budget.
So
So,
the fact it's showing as green is meaning that they're okay?
yeah, it means it's okay.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of discussion in at the intake point about setting up the client budgets, which was a separate thing for Gabby and Laura Lee. But at the end of the day, if the budgets are set up, it'll actually show you that flashing yellow, orange, or red. Sorry, yellow, green, or red, depending on whether they're underutilising their suggested package budget for the month, or they're okay, or they're overutilising it.
I mean, because I know there's a case manager on leave at the moment, and I told the girl covering that the client was already in deficit, because I knew, and yet she didn't know, and it was a request for a transfer. I mean, she probably could have checked, but
We don't have that set up, yeah. That's not set up in TRACCS.
oh, that's fine. Okay.
It's probably always green.
Yeah, but okay.
Which mine was always green.
So just so I can get some measure from the live database, like if I right click and go allocate, it looks like it's taking about or in that case it was faster, 2 to 5 seconds for the worker search screen to show up. Is that like the normal thing on your?
Sometimes.
Depends what's happening, sometimes it's longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's longer than that.
Mm.
Sometimes you can go
It's
fill your
always
water
different.
glass up and come back and it still hasn't popped up. Seriously, I'm not joking.
That's like that's like riding Halo.
It can be very
Go away, make a cup of coffee before it catches
Or
up.
if you're, waiting for the masters to populate or something, you just go off, go to the bathroom, come back, it's still there.
So do you ever do a search for all staff?
No.
But you've got all teams
You've got
selected there.
all that
And
takes
all
forever.
categories, that'll slow
So
it
what-
right down.
What would a typical thing be here?
Just your
Just
Just
like
your own
the
branches.
areas that you're looking for.
Like Jen just said, those
And then-
7-1.
just support workers. Because you'll be sitting there forever now.
I'm not equipped to drive your
I
live
leave mine
database.
on staff, I don't put them all on Cheesy, but I leave mine on staff.
Yeah, I leave it on all stuff.
Mine's all
So
It's just that,
down here
so-
we'd have no brokers.
Yeah,
So
And
that's
Wouldn't be all
that,
teams.
yeah, we just put whatever. But see, if I was going into that, I wouldn't put all 7 of those in because I would
Just
be looking
whatever
in
area.
whatever particular area that.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so let me
Mine
find.
stays set so that every day when I get up, it only populates, because there's not that many that have similar surnames. So if I've across my 3 different rosters, I've only got 2 when I type in John, that they're in different regions. So one's a Johnston and one's a Johnson. But you don't get that many out of your own list that are similar.
Okay, so you would have multiple, like your 7 things not ticked here. So what would be ticked here in a typical circumstance?
So if I was doing, allocating a service over in like Maitland, I would just have Maitland A, Maitland B ticked. Because that's the support workers I'm looking for.
And
No,
what
I would just leave all
Leave that.
those categories.
you leave them on?
Yeah.
So is there a reason for that, or?
No, because generally it only ever brings up the support workers. Maybe a case manager will be in there, but you know who that is anyway.
So if I tick that's all the support worker categories, is it?
No,
Well, no,
CCP 's still on there.
yeah, the handy person.
Yeah, no, CCP is still the same.
Handy person.
Yeah.
Handyman, yep.
Well, someone
Casual
says,
labour.
you just
Yes,
went
that-
past it.
H person.
H person, casual, part-time, see? Yeah, those.
So is there a reason for what? So what's the handy person only does home maintenance, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
but
Yeah, but we
they
still
still
schedule
one of
them.
our support workers effectively. We schedule their services for them.
Okay.
And then is there still cash?
There's
If
still
you go-
CCP, casual, permanent, part-time.
What is it?
CCP.
CCP, that's the old type for a support worker, community care professional.
They really need a clean-up, those.
Yes, that's evident.
We talked about that last time. I think.
Yeah.
So this will happen in the remuneration and job role clarity that's happening right now, because we've got one job role, but it might have 16 different names,
Yeah.
right, for a job role. So you might have community care provider, professional, whoop-de-doos, Woolloomooloo, super worker, ABC, Johnny come late, whatever. Driver, especially meal extraordinaire,
Like the support workers,
Which is
the
why
names
you
they
just
call
leave it.
themselves.
but it's actually being all cleaned up right now. It's a big, and this is what happens when I said before, like, we have to be really careful when we ask for something new, because it inevitably affects someone else. And we always, because we have a vested interest, we think about everything that affects us. But unless you've got some other people in the room, go, yeah, but hang on, what about this bit? Or what about that bit? You may not even know about that or what it's likely to create downstream. So that's a classic example of
So-
residents.
Is this performance I'm getting like common? Is that how fast it normally is?
I reckon.
No.
Not
Yours is
always.
faster. Yours is
That's
way
a
faster.
lot faster.
Yours is faster.
Yeah, way faster.
So why is that?
Because there's backups. Oh no, she's not doing any backups today.
No.
No, so it shouldn't be.
So yeah, Bob's disabled. There was 2 parts to it, and he's just done the last thing now, I think. But
Well, Sue's in her rosters now, is yours
Yeah.
as fast as that, Sue?
That's human, so it's good to that's why I would hope it's faster.
A bit fast.
It's
Is
the
it
old
not
day
fast?
managers
Just where
were
you're still using the old day touch.
Yeah.
yeah, which but this is just in the roster, but I'm not even in the day manager at the moment. Go to Maitland. just bear with me. I mean, you know what these things are. I'm just having a bit of a look at what sort of response times you're getting. So does Explorer usually come up that fast?
No.
No, not even remotely. Oh, that's getting more like it.
Because
It's
that
like,
happens quite a bit. We have customers, sometimes Newcastle customers are sitting down at home. It happens in, like, we get Port Stephens ones and sometimes Taree and a message.
What about the client
selling
details screen?
that they're sitting now unallocated. So that means that they're being allocated to a support worker in the area at some stage.
So it's normally not
No,
that fast.
Not necessarily.
Who's in rosters at the minute?
Sue is.
oh,
Are you an old day manager?
You haven't told us how to get on the new one if you have.
No, you've got to enable the users individually. So I'm in the payroll database. That's a backup of live, so it's got just as much data in there. So how long does that normally take?
Now, so you're running pretty good at the moment.
From what I'm watching you do, I would say you're running at twice the speed I do.
But that's not all the time.
Shit, yeah.
Most of the
Sometimes
time.
I'm twice as slow, and then sometimes I'm 5 or 6 times as slow. I'm not kidding. It can
Maybe the same
really
for you,
be
is it
like
so?
you. My best period of time is at 6 in the morning on the Saturday or something. As soon as it gets to 8:30, it's
Well,
just
that was pretty quick
over.
then.
And then in the
So it is a
afternoon,
long
I reckon that was about 3
the internet
seconds.
issue.
And that's a
3, 4
lot
seconds.
than what it normally is.
Changes.
So has everybody sort of got the same practice in terms of what they've got ticked up the top here? Like, do you include
I just always
staff
like
leave, travel time and
Yeah,
admin?
we don't
I've never
touch
even
it.
touched that.
No, we just leave whatever's there.
And on pay on Monday, payday, it gets even slower.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Payday's
Everyone
bad.
goes, what's wrong with the computers today? Everyone. And it's
Oh, it's
usually
pay week.
Pay week.
Bookings directly in, range only.
So
MTA stuff too.
I'm just trying to get some benchmarks here. So this is 326 rosters, which is 6,500 services. So that took 16 seconds to load.
So what's your say?
Mine says 70 staff rosters. 1282 loaded in 6 seconds.
Yeah, so you've got a lot less services in only a week there. But what have you got ticked? So we can do some direct benchmarking.
I've just got my, like say, muscle book team. So I've just got NG up Hunter MBK, the next one up.
That one?
That one, yeah.
Is it? That's all, is it?
Yeah.
So I get 53 rosters out of that.
What week are you in, Sue?
The current week, so,
Yeah.
so that should be right.
So how many rosters have you got?
I've got 70 staff.
How come I'm only getting 53? I mean, I'm in the payroll database, not your database, so, but I would have thought they'd be similar.
Would, because you've got unavailable unticked, but you've got it ticked, is that
Oh, yeah.
going to be why?
Yeah, that'd make a difference because if they're unavailable for the whole week.
Yeah, 'cause
So
it's
does that
showing we've got
unavailable
whoever's on
mean,
leave,
like, if they're on
showing
leave?
where he didn't,
Or
No, that's formal unavailability.
yeah.
so if they're on the boat.
What have you got that I haven't got then?
Booking,
Don't answer that question.
transport facilities, booking.
Show him your screen maybe, might you, so he can cross-reference his screen.
I see you've got case management, but I have two. Oh, that looks completely different, doesn't it? Oh, that's the bottom.
When you untick the case management box, does that pull the case managers themselves, the individual case managers, or does it pull the case managed clients?
No, it's the case manager themselves.
Yeah, cool, okay. So I can clean that
Yeah,
up.
so
Probably
it's,
have your customer service admin notes too, wouldn't it?
so, sorry?
It'll probably have, because it's the current week, like your customer
Yeah.
service admin notes as well.
So customer
Oh.
service will then show up, yeah.
Because this is a few days old, I think.
But if you're in their payroll one, the payroll's not gonna get customer service notes, right?
If we didn't have those, maybe our system would be quicker as well.
So like, I reckon that's really
How many services?
Yeah, so, yeah.
It's still, there's still a case manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they must be different, but it's a few days old, I think, that one. So, is Attenborough there? Yeah, the main one's there. It's just, like, Henning Ashley is not there.
So that's a customer service officer, so she won't actually have services, she'll just have her case notes.
So, if we turn off case manager, yeah, so if we take case management out, that goes down to 40 rosters.
Tim, when that case manager one, is that just the, say the blue, the admin blue circles that case managers
Yes.
add? So we, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to smooth this out to be what it should be. 41, that's pretty close. 4 seconds, 5 seconds.
Oh, that should be good for a vertigo.
So I'm sort of getting, we just need to run some benchmarks on this next week so we can talk facts, but I'm getting basically between 4 and 7 seconds for the same refresh as this one, which is taking 5 or 6 seconds. So a similar sort of refresh time, but this has got your full fortnight's roster in it as well. So you've sort of got double the speed. Then let's have a look at some processes. I won't actually allocate anything.
Oh, that's it.
Well, you want me to?
I've got nothing else
Okay, so it seems it sort of seems about twice as fast for the.
Nothing to allocate. Oh, of course.
You've got no one covering the law.
I haven't had anyone.
Well, yeah, she's not both.
Yeah, but no one's covering you today. That could explode at any time.
Actually, I've got a good one. That's not the biggest one.
Robin's covering the library, Maitland and Cecil, and Nathan's covering all Illawarra area and Dubbo and that. What? Is that your preference? I know.
No.
Well, that's good. That is one thing I am looking forward to.
Yeah, that's all. There always the other things. Wombat.
Teamwork. Teamwork.
Oh, there's another one. He doesn't do it.
That is one thing it needs to
Do you normally want to see your unavailability?
Problems. Anything that goes wrong.
Because it helps with that if someone steps into your area, that they know that person can't.
And because we get one-off changes, so we get support workers who have an appointment, we have to change their availabilities for one day, that would normally be 7 to 7, and all of a sudden, just on Thursday, to 7 to 3.
So that leave that's up there, is that something you've actually manually put in? Is it?
She applied for leave and she wanted 5 hours each day on the leave form. So you manually add that in.
But this is.
And is your practice to sort of start off in unassigned bookings, or do you typically keep the whole roster open?
I keep the whole roster. If I've got unallocated bookings, I used to just see who it all belongs to first, if it's a competency thing.
Yeah.
And then mark that if it was, and then just work from that on.
That's Tim.
In the tool there, Tyler. Do you watch that program?
Well,
Don't talk about him on here.
yeah, I just wanted to. But let's do He doesn't. So this is in your, it's not your live database, okay, right? Just, I think in the old day manager that you've been using, it doesn't default to order by caseload when you go into unassigned bookings, does it?
No, you have to manually do that.
So you just, does anybody work in unassigned bookings sometimes or often?
Yeah, that's good. We did that a lot, especially the competencies of someone.
So just go into the unallocated bookings?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, back on.
Why am I getting no staff?
The teams.
I took them off. I need Maitland, don't I? No, they're on.
No, this is Musselburgh.
Ah, so what's Musselbrook called in Teams? Musselbrook, I guess. There'd be more than that, wouldn't there? Competencies? No. So active any Jenny, just Musselbrook?
Oh, yeah.
It must be competencies. No, it can't be. We've got nobody available. So we've got 24 staff. Okay, so some of these things will be questions about what you're doing at the moment, but so if I'm just looking at this shift here, so this is live data from your real database. So you've got, obviously you've got the hover, which we talked about, so you don't have to actually open the shift to get to the information. I can see what's going on there. And it's got the worker's phone number, the client's phone number and address if you need. Looking at the allocate function, so we want to find a suitably qualified available support worker to fill that shift. Right click, allocate staff. So are you ticking available at the moment?
Oh, it's just currently ticked online.
Yeah, I don't touch it. I don't know what it's
So ideally, you don't need to look at all staff, you only want to look at the ones that are available. So if you start off by ticking that, when you refresh the list, it'll check all the rosters and only come up with people that are actually available in that time slot. So is some people doing that, no people, or?
I'm not sure.
To be honest, I just look at the day manager, then roster, I don't.
Oh, really?
Don't
Don't you use the gap analyzer? Don't you use the gap analyzer? Oh my God.
I don't use the gap analyzer, never have.
You know what, most people don't anymore, and it's astounding because after doing or being involved in this, it's like,
Yes.
wow, how much time.
Yeah, because not
It's
only,
lost.
not
When you
only,
scroll through, don't
you know,
usually
it
need
also
to
gives you an
even know
indication
whose
if you
rosters are gonna be
can't
full by
reschedule,
default,
if you can't
so
schedule it to the
I
set,
do
it
too.
gives you an
I do.
indication
I
of
do.
what
Probably will.
gaps you've got in the day that you might be able to schedule it to as well.
Yeah, can I, just using that one as an example, can I just, I'll just dot point like the process, because really when you're trying to assign a staff member, if you look at the staff list and it's only available qualified staff, you're only going to get one of three results, which is you're going to get no staff, one staff or some staff. That's the only possible outcomes, yeah, that show on the list. But our starting point for that would be normally, okay, I want to find, I don't know anything about this, I want to find a suitably qualified available support worker to fill that shift, and I don't know your staff, I don't know your competencies, and I don't know your clients. But I should be able to just follow a straightforward process, which is just go allocate staff. Now I know when I ask for a refresh, because we've got competencies enforced, it's only going to give me people with valid competencies. And then I tick available, because I don't know who's working where, and I don't know the rosters very well. So that gives me 7 workers. Okay, I've got choices here which we have talked about. Now, the first thing you're going to notice, or hopefully you'll notice, so here's your distance. Yep. Now, we might need to fine tune that a bit, but part of what we did with the travel interpreter, which is now active in your live database, is to populate all the geolocations in the names and addresses of the staff and clients. So there will be some cleansing that needs to be done, like I suspect, well you can tell me, but 99.5 kilometres is probably not right there.
So what happens with new
Oh,
clients?
she's the case manager.
Ah,
So Tim, what happens with new clients and new staff that are added? Does it run it all the time to add those figures in?
yeah, if you put a new client in at admission, because the API key is installed now, it automatically puts the geocode.
And what about for staff?
Same thing.
Oh.
So they shouldn't really be in there at all. So this is just a fine tuning. What's their category? Case
Case
manager.
manager.
Theoretically, if that's all working, how
You've
easy
still
is
got
it
a case
to
manager
actually
in there.
roster in other areas that you don't know anything about?
Yeah.
Makes it simple.
Oh,
It's a process.
we only want
You don't need to know that stuff.
support worker and DSWs.
Yeah.
So should DSWs be coming up?
What is a DSW?
They're our disability workers that are, because Overton.
Sorry, I'll just be two ticks.
In the field as well.
You won the lotto, we're getting some. Yeah, rightio, perfect. And, because Ange said she's got some hot, warm, ready to go. Yeah, let's get them.
Bob had one too.
Bob had one.
Bob's got a good
Has he?
referral. I told Ange and and
Bob's got one. Anyone else got one?
got a good one
Donna
apparently.
Alley, I was talking to her, she's got one.
From where?
From my area.
Do you need one?
Yeah.
Get one.
Yeah.
Is there one in?
Yes, I gave
All
her,
done,
she's,
yeah.
we've got them all,
happening.
it's all happening.
Good. So Charlie, we need another, so this, just while we're waiting, we did a group orientation this week of support workers. It's our first group, so we had 6 people, couple from Tassie, couple from out west, couple from around here. Where's the other one from? No, one from Wagga,
Wagga.
2 from Smithton, 1
Tara's
from Wagga.
area.
How did they attend by phone?
No, here. We brought them here. Yep, they all came here. They had 2 full days of face-to-face orientation, and the 4 service delivery managers were here. They did all their competencies. They learned about their MTA app. This is their medication competency, their hand washing, their food safety, their money handling. They had to use their MediHealth, and they're out, and they all did a buddy shift. They had 2 days face-to-face, and then they did a buddy shift on Wednesday with someone from here. It went really well. Well, you had to get their feedback. They could say it was crap, but it, it actually went really well, I think. And I just have to acknowledge Marzia's efforts in putting together the PowerPoint presentation. So we're putting together a PowerPoint pack for everyone, but it worked really, really well. So if we're doing if we're getting some new people for whatever, I want another group one, a group group here.
So I've got a worker that I'm getting asked when can I induct.
Yeah, well, there's interviews
and out of a
happening
fortnight,
today.
I've got one available day to do it.
Yeah, well, let's look at another group one.
And who's doing the group inductions?
Well,
Ongoing, or will it just be?
it's not an ongoing thing. I just want to have another go because these are local people now, isn't it?
No, mine's from Queensland.
Oh yeah, where from?
Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring it down. Anyway, let's talk about it afterwards. So I'd like to do another little one because we need to refine it. But yeah, it's a good opportunity for them to get together, to sort of, chat together, know each other in the team, see where we live, where we are.
But you don't want to do it ongoing.
Yes, I do, because it's an effective way to do it. It's much better than you doing a bloody orientation every other week. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
That's all right, no worries.
Tim.
So I've just fine-tuned that a bit to sort of give the presentation that I'd be expecting if I was doing the rostering, if you know what I mean. So you probably want to rearrange your columns up here to suit yourself, and we'd normally suggest that sort of arrangement. So you've got your gender, minimum, maximum, worked, kilometres, rating, cost weighting, and then the staff name. Now your cost weighting and your rating obviously aren't used at the moment, but so we ideally will have like stars, 5 stars, 7 stars, 6 stars, whatever. And if the cost factor of a worker is an issue for your rostering, I'd also suggest we get this populated reasonably quickly as part of the sort of data setup side.
What is it, sorry?
It's cost weighting. So it's about how much that worker's going to cost to do the job, but it's not the actual dollars because we don't want the pay rates being floated around the place. It's just like their ranking, like their level, their reward level, if you want to put it that way. Like you can use your own relative ranking, like start with the cheapest worker, that's 1, and then this one's 10% more, so that's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, or you can just say, okay, they're on, say, the SCADS award, so 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. So because we've got the ability to sort on all these columns, yeah. So I can sort of say, well, do I want people that have worked the least in the period, or do I want people that are closest for travel, or do I want people who have got the highest or lowest star rating, or do I want the cheapest person?
Yeah.
And you can take all of those into account in the rostering process. So if they're populated, then it starts to boil down to this. Excuse me. Right click, allocate, and I'm ignorant of your rostering, I don't know anything. Available, refresh, and look at their worked hours. We've got somebody here with 58 already, a couple of lower. Let's have a look at the kilometres. Okay, we've got somebody that's only got 13 and a half hours, 0.9 kilometres away, that's available.
Tim, is that working hours, is that for this week in particular, or is that for the pay period
That's for whatever period in the day manager you're working in.
for that week? Yeah?
Well, it's for the fortnight.
Okay, so it's got,
So if you're doing it for today, it would be this pay.
yeah.
So
So
if
the-
you were doing it next weekend, it's in between two pay periods. They might be chock a block over here and not here.
You recall, so this is sort of, it's not something, I mean, we can video it, but it's when you apply it is up to you, but you can go into options here and set the rostering pay period that you're working in to be something other than the currently set pay period. So, you know, if payroll is a bit slow getting the date change and you want to work in a forward fortnight, you can work in the forward fortnight and just adjust that, and then any reference to paid hours, fortnightly pay period hours, is actually referencing the whatever you've got set, not what payroll's got set. But you just have to be mindful of it, because then if you want to go back to a different pay period, you'd need to reset that. So right click, allocate staff, available. I've already filtered it now for just support workers and DSWs because I don't want to see the case managers or admin staff. I've got 7 support workers available. There's one that's 0.9 kilometres away. So now we're going to do one of 3 things. Like in this case, I've got multiple available support workers. As a starting point, is that accurate?
Yep.
So that's actually real life from your perspective. There's no reason why any of them can't do shifts or.
What was the shift on? Sorry, that you clicked on originally.
It's
For 9
to 9:30.
9:15.
Med check.
Looks like a night patient,
For
probably
Ridge's
15 minute
line.
service.
Sorry, no, I didn't.
Just out of interest, sorry, how many 15-minute services have we got?
Heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps.
Well, we
and
had to
heaps.
break them up because if you've got an hour and a half service, they now want 15 minutes medication, 30 minutes this.
There is quite a few that are.
standalone.
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
There is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be though, it should be minimum 30 we were
Yeah,
told.
no.
So you said I'm working
The only
15 minutes.
I've got a
general
level-
Probably the medication.
I've got a level 2
If
that
they were
has,
absolutely necessary around medication,
So-
to be pre-approved to see what they were batting off the back end of.
Off
So
the-
if they were
Okay, we need some new rules around this, particularly for home packages.
I've
No
got
more
a,
15
I've got a level 2
She can't. Oh, no,
that
she
only gets medication.
Oh, yeah.
There is quite a few.
It's in a work
If you clicked on that Sutherland one, it would come up with she's only got approved workers.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's why I wasn't getting anybody before. So, can we just talk about that then? So, what's the reason they're splitting the shifts?
Different activity types.
So if there's medication and PC.
So the worker has a clear understanding as well.
I thought it was to do with the government.
So,
No, so
like
there's a bit of
those-
misunderstanding there. It's got- For home care packages, there's no reporting obligations for the type of service that's delivered.
No, it's about the statement, it's about clients wanting to see the statement, it's about us having this is about having a number of complaints and being requested by the department to make a very clear statement. So that's what that's about. This is where we end
For your
up,
package statements.
they want to see every single service on the statement.
Yeah, but if you're there for 2 hours, there was only one service.
No,
No.
no.
You can do different things
I
in the
have-
service.
No, I have clients that have 3 or 4 services
You know, I get
in a
what you
block
mean. You're
of
doing,
2 hours.
yeah,
But
but
you're
you,
saying that goes back to your task list within
yes,
a 2 hour
exactly,
service.
yeah.
So
So
you
what
tick
do
that
you
you
want?
did
No.
medication, you
No.
tick that you
Yes.
did the domestic, and you tick that you did
Yes.
the
Okay.
shopping.
So then you've got a clear breakdown of what they've done.
Yeah,
They've signed off to say they've done those separate services.
yeah.
And you can have on the package statement, when you're running them out of TRACCS, the shift content, or we could even do the task list if you want, can be inserted into the statement underneath the service.
That might end with the statement is 45 pages long.
Well, yeah, but
I
you
suppose, yeah, anyway.
Would it work if when we're putting a service in, that we have the option to choose multiple services within that time block? Like, you know, now we put the service in, it's for DA for
But
an
you still-
hour.
yeah.
Can we put DA, medication check?
But why? I don't think you need to do it at all.
Yeah, you do, because if
Some
you
workers
don't have
can't
it
do it.
separated, I can't, I mean, we took over an area that had a lot of DAs, it's all DAs, and within it, you open the service extra info notes, it says PC, medication check, leisure lifestyle, take them for a walk, nowhere in there where they're cleaning. And if we send the wrong worker, if they're not able to do meds, then, you know, and they're not able to shower if they're in L2, that's a waste of time for them to get there, knock on the door and they go, I can't help you.
I think the thing is too that if the statements are coming from TRACCS going forward and it has the ability to make that reflective in another way, at the moment, as we know, TRACCS doesn't talk to finance, so finance are just using whatever.
Well, they're just using the code, and
That's
because they're
right.
only extracting
So-
the code,
Yes.
they're not looking at the descriptive information of the task. And to be honest, they're probably not set up properly at the moment. So this could open a bit of a can of worms. But I'm just looking at this like from a rostering point of view, it doubles or triples the amount of effort to manipulate
We know.
shifts.
Yes.
I mean, you can highlight multiple
So
shifts.
that's why, because finance at the moment, every time it sees one of those little hearts, that's how it picks it up the bill. So if there's 10 hours of PC over the month, that's how finance translated off the reports that are drawn on the instances.
Yeah, I mean, like from my perspective, a way to do all of this would have been to have one activity code
Yeah.
called PC with meds. Yep, and then it would have been rostered for the full, like however long
But
it
there
took.
is, but that's under CHSP, not under HCP.
Yeah, so there's a lot of clean-up to happen.
So can we
Can-
when that discussion with Puneet's happening, which he's working on for the database codes, I think we need to have a bit more thought about what's happening to rosters, to the schedulers themselves.
And the other,
But then it-
the other,
Absolutely.
it
'Cause
still
what-
won't work unless you've got your competencies attached to your activities, because we could roster the wrong person to the job.
Yeah, well, you can do that now because that's not established. But so what should be happening here, like digging a little bit deeper, is that should just be one shift, but it's, you know, it can be PC but medication prompt, and it's the 2 hours, and a competency is attached to medication prompt, so it's only going to give you workers that
Yeah.
have got.
In our ideal world,
Well, that's what we want to make.
yeah.
Because currently
The-
the way
yeah.
you were doing it, we're like just looking at that one job, like to go through, and you're going to get a false reading because you actually need to
You need to
schedule
fit it in
all
an
of
hour and a
those
half, yeah.
services in.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I know.
So
But
it's
you'll find,
completely-
I was just going through the process, but I would have done the whole caseload, but one of those clients has got, I think, some exclusions. So I'm just looking at the different scenarios.
Yeah, so if it was one client, I think what he's saying, Jen, is that you could actually grab the med, the meal, the PC, and then the 1.5 hour DA, and then search for a gap. That's
Yeah,
what
if
he's
you-
saying.
But is he
gonna
It's
search
one-
for a long
it's-
enough
It's
gap?
technically
Does
one
that-
service, but it's rostered
Yes,
for-
exactly.
So this is an age of, so in any organisation, this is a tug of war conversation that happens all the time. Because finance want it done in a certain way, reporting want it done in a certain way. Then there's our emergency response stuff, I want done in a certain way. And how do we make life easy for you guys? Because I'm absolutely very aware that in a roster run, you could have 12 separate things you've got to change, where potentially it might only be 3. Maybe 3 clients or 4 clients. So it is a bigger conversation that we need to have, and we need to have finance in the room. We need to have all the right people in the room this time, guys, before we embark on sort of making, so it's, you know, absolutely, Tim's point around the making rostering easier has to be forefront. but it may end up meaning that it ain't forefront because of, you know, we get overridden, or, you know, there's a need that is whatever greater
Yeah, but
somewhere
when
else.
there's a reason for it, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
No, but
absolutely.
it's,
job
we've
is
got to
as
be
a roster,
careful.
your roster.
Because
So-
because what's happening here, it's clear, is that other departments further downstream are enforcing things onto the front end, which is sort of like significantly affecting operations. But operation probably hasn't had like a say in the construction of that front end. Now, there is definitely reporting obligations. They have to have the statements a certain way, or a minimum certain way. You do have DEX reporting obligations, which means that for CHSP services, you do have to separate the services out according to the government reporting requirements. But you should be able to take all of that. I mean, I'm not lying. We've got agencies that do take all that into account and still have a nice, simple coding system for the rosterers that's reasonably effective.
Bring it on.
So
Yes, of course,
we
support
just-
other.
So when
No, that's not effective.
HCP other,
It's not
That's what it used to be.
that's what happened, and so we had a very serious complaint, and we almost had an unannounced visit to audit all of our home care package services.
Would have been messy.
Very messy.
So you
So
can,
that's,
you can
so,
see the critical nature, like you can see what's driving it, but sometimes the like the demands that come out of it are not necessary and it could have been done another way, but nobody else had any say in it, so it just got like mandated. So we've got to try and address that, and a starting point is to make sure that you've got the explanations to mount to show any external downstream department that yes, we can get that information out without having to totally mess up our lives. So, like, Gabby's good at doing that, but you know, we can be involved in it as well if you need a teleconference or something like that.
I'm picking my battle. I can only do one battle at a time, guys. Like one, just one.
So with these two, we'd probably have a combined service, specifying the medication part, because we do need to split it out from non-medication PC, I guess. If that's a requirement, that's fine. You can have two activity codes, but you just roster the 2 hours for the one that requires a competency, like the medication problem. And if in the 2 hours they do other elements of personal care, that's fine too. So then we've only got one entry to address, and we can attach, you know, further along, once the competencies are sorted out, you can attach the competency requirements to the medication prompt activity, and then it will only bring up people that have got the appropriate qualifications just automatically. Okay, so an action item out of that is that as part of the coding, we really need to talk to finance and other external departments and convince them that they don't need to do it this way and they can still get the information onto the statements correctly.
And find out what other potential issues
Yeah.
they have.
Okay, so but if we're just looking at that one, so right click, allocate, tick available, refresh. There's my list of suitably qualified available support workers. That's them sorted by closeness to the shift. Now, I'm looking at that list and the travel is so good that I'm probably just going to ask that worker whether they can do the job. Then from our perspective, and I just was talking to Gabby, I spoke to Bob, and the capacity to do SMS emails is there now, but not enabled or switched on in production. So there's going to be a separate bit of a project for Bob to get that enabled, but once that's done, which should happen in the next well, actually, don't hold me to that. He'll have to schedule it, but
Is
we
he
should.
actually doing it though?
Sorry?
Is he actually doing it, or it's still he might be able to do it?
No. It is available right now, and in two forms, in actual fact. So there's an SMS gateway set up where in your Outlook, if you type in the email address or it populates the email address of the worker, it'll go as an email. But if you put in the worker's phone number, it goes as an email.
What is that measuring it from?
Now, this is not the Google route map, so you'd want to check that. This is a straight line distance, just using geolocation.
But is it from the support worker's home or the client that they were with previously?
From the client, well, either. If they were at a client, it takes it from the client's location. and if they didn't have a client shift beforehand, it takes them from the home. So that'll get, basically it's giving you a rough guide. Like I could say that, okay, I've got 5 support workers that are available within 50 kilometres of the job. But if I sort them, I can see, well, that one's quite close. If you want to then explore it with map last known location to job, that'll actually give you the travel route on the map. So, you know, if they've got to cross a river and go back down, maybe it's not 0.9 kilometres, maybe it's 3 kilometres. But clearly they're quite close to the job. So straight away that's going to save me $7.80, or at least $7.80 in travel cost. And if you multiply that by 1,000 shifts, there's $7,800. So it can be quite significant. Yeah, so I would just SMS the worker and then they're going to respond. Now, the fact of the matter at the moment is that if the response comes back, it goes into the Outlook inbox of whoever generated the email, which would be your login, but that can also be changed to go to a common group mailbox. So I can't advise you on that one. That would depend a little bit on your work processes, like how you want those responses to come back.
And if it's a group one, do we actually, as individuals, have to access something different, or the simple fact that we're part of that group, is it populate into our own personal emails and look like it's come directly to us?
As I understand it, you would be hooked into that generic mailbox, but I think you see it as a separate, like in your Outlook, you see rostering mailbox or your own personal mailbox. And then it just, you know, you just go into the rostering one if you're looking for rostering stuff.
But if you're doing it live there and then, it should just come back to you.
Yeah, if that's the way it's configured at the moment, I think, so that's fine.
Those pools of things to search for your own response is
Yep.
horrifying.
So I don't know whether I can actually, in my user context, whether I can send a an email or not. See what happens. Oh yeah, I've got Outlook. So you see it's populated the email with the worker's email address already. So you can just type in what you want there. And whether it goes as an SMS or an email will be dependent on what populates there and whether you choose SMS email or just direct email. Oops. So now they're marked in progress. And if I open up one of them, I can see that I've sent an email request, or somebody else, if it's marked in progress and you try to research it, you can see that an SMS or an email has been sent to the person. You should...
So did you actually send that email?
No.
So it will come up even if, so if you go to do it and then change your mind, it's still going to pin it and come up?
Only if you can the actual, like if you stop before you send the email, no. But once you say that you want to do the email, it's or the SMS, it's going to come up with the. So you're outside TRACCS at that point. You're actually in Outlook, so TRACCS doesn't know whether you actually clicked send.
Send or not, yeah.
So you should get quickly around the fact we did dot point this, but if I'm looking at a marked in progress service and I want to know about the history, I can just go right click service shift notes, and that'll bring up and tell me that an SMS or an email has been sent and who sent it. Who did I send it to? So then when Lunny responds, it'll come in either to, well, wherever it's going to go. That's a discussion between yourselves and Bob, but to either a respond SMS or the group email or your individual email. So then I can just finalise the allocation.
I thought it'd have to really be intelligently set up for a group, and even if the group is only, so in our area for Port Stephens there's 5 of us, Port Stephens and the middle of post. But if a live scheduler is not actually the person on call that night, and she sends the message at 5 o'clock, but the support worker doesn't respond until 7:30, and it's a shift that you want to allocate to them tomorrow, then whoever is on call needs to be able to see that response.
And that's the reason why it would go to a group email.
Yeah, that's right.
So at the end of the day, it's up to you, the workflow there, but whatever works best for you, for the current work practices you've got. Now, this has to be changed as well. Okay, so at the moment, you're getting a list of all the pay types to select from. With the award interpreter, that list is going to disappear completely. Okay, there'll only be one active pay type set up, which is award. And then, because there's only one, the pay type screen won't display at all. And these shouldn't be coming up for, like, are they all valid pay types for this person?
Yeah, the disability ones and HC.
So what would this be? Normal?
Yeah, no.
Now, if, let's go back in here. So assuming that I'd actually done that in your live database, I've just done an allocation to a suitably qualified available support worker with minimum travel distance without knowing anything. And I mean, we talked about it a lot, but that should have taken less than 30 seconds really. So is there anything in that I just did that you think you can't do?
Can we have a look at the end result where that's gone into that support worker's shift to see that it hasn't clashed? Because you've got to go and put the travel in and everything else.
The overlap thing where it prevents you from rostering if there's going to be an overlap, that's set up in where you're working, yes?
No, this is just your raw database, so whatever's set up in your live database at the moment. But
so that could have overlapped another service and you wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah, it wasn't an overlap because they were available.
But doesn't the availability have 15 minutes either side?
Yes.
So it could have created a 15-minute overlap.
No, it's got 15 minutes either side gap.
Oh, okay.
So that means that
So really,
So if
say
it
it's
travels half an hour,
yeah.
then create an overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. Yeah, if they'd had something starting within 15 minutes of that shift already, it wouldn't have come up as an available person.
Yeah.
But that will be active in DM2, yeah?
Yeah, it's turned on in the background, so you can have it turned on or not turned on, but if it's turned on, which is the expectation here, then if you did, it won't happen there if you're choosing a suitably qualified available support worker, but if you didn't tick available, or you tried to nudge a shift that conflicted with another, or
Then
copy and paste, then it's just going to come up and say, sorry, you can't overlap shifts.
How long do you envisage it will, the training of a new, like a scheduler that hasn't done the day manager 2 stuff, how long do you envisage that training should take?
If they're brand new or just...
No, just existing
Current scheduler.
Well,
schedulers.
It's actually, I think they don't need much training at all just to go from day manager 1 to day manager 2, because essentially it looks a little bit different, but the basic things that they're doing in day manager 1 you can replicate in day manager 2. It's just when
So it's an overview of new features
and
processes of staying in that screen.
yeah, so what we do have to make sure is that they take advantage of the new facility. So you, as your starting point, okay, this is the new day manager, the idea is you're working here and you're only working here.
Yeah.
And when they say, but how do I get to the client record? That's when we need these
Videos.
other things, not just the videos, but for you to tell us, well, these are the things they're doing at the moment, so we'll need to cater for when they ask questions about that, and then we can make sure we've got a video for it.
Yeah.
Because we can do, which I have done, like these little videos like how to assign a worker.
Yeah.
Right click, allocate, tick availability, refresh, double click. So it's all in a 2-minute video. But that doesn't answer, well, what if? So we need to address the what ifs a little bit as well to make sure that they're comfortable, that they can just sort of sit in here and do the things that they need to do. Which is why I wanted to get onto your live data today, so we could actually run some practice examples with live data as it stands. some of this we have to clean up, but yeah, this is the real deal. Who was that?
Lunny.
Oh, that's right, Lonnie. Forgot what day I did it on.
I'll do my own stuff. I'll. You know,
Who was it? Ridges. Oh no, that was the previous
Sago.
worker. Who was the
Sago.
bot? Sago. What day did I do it on?
Yes, please. Or even Monday.
let me tomorrow get my horses out there and just say, what time? Anytime.
That's been from
Yeah,
So then like go back.
Change the date.
So, is it flex level on that?
Takes the
Like,
reloaded.
So what happens is I can do it, but I can't find it. So everyone trying to get down, so it goes over there, and I particularly bring it further. So
21st.
And even to get out, they have to get
Okay.
a session, because I can't find the house. Alright.
Seago on the 21st.
Yeah.
Don't forget your mouse scroll. I can't do it on the mouse pad, but if you've got the mouse, you can use your mouse scroll now.
That'd be great.
So slow. It used to be.
So there it is there. Now that's actually a good example, that one, because it's slotted that shift in between that 8:45 finish and the 10 o'clock start there. I mean, it was only a 15-minute medication pump, so if we'd done the full thing, it wouldn't have worked out like that. But so it found a proper available gap for a worker that was only 0.9 kilometres from the job, and I've managed to allocate it in 30 seconds without having any knowledge of your support staff or your clients.
Yeah, and that's what we need to be able to do, because as we get bigger, the danger for us is that all of you have got all this information in your heads.
Tim, if it's a fixed service, for example, so that was a fixed service and you just had an hour gap there,
Yeah.
where you put it on. If it was a fixed service that had, not a non-fixed service, and we could bump that up to make a run, so there's not
Yeah.
split shifts, would that
Well, you'd
be
have to.
identified anywhere?
Yeah, it will be, but you've got to think about the process of why you get to that point. So, if I'm
So
looking.
once you're there, look at
Yeah, if I'm looking for a suitably qualified available support worker and I get 5 staff, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
And if I get one that's within 5 kilometres, I definitely don't need to worry about it.
Even
That's them if they accept it.
Yeah.
But what will happen if we just explore that scenario is, in reality, no, and I've still got workers. You've got workers available fairly regularly.
Yeah.
What I was looking for. Let's go back to your bookings.
How's it be? Full time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's even worse. I mean, so we've covered off on 2 scenarios, but they're the easy ones. So the first time I got multiple workers, there was one that was easy because they were close and available, suitably qualified, so I chose them. Here, I've only got 1 support worker, so that's a no-brainer. I'm going to SMS them. What I was really looking for is what happens if you get the 3rd scenario. Oh, they've got first aid as well. Good on them.
Do CPR.
Put your blue card back on, that always gets a good dump.
Oh, they'll probably have that as well. What'll Stomer care? They probably haven't got that. Yeah.
I would have laughed if they came up.
Okay, so the third scenario is when you get no workers. So you're only, as I said, you can only have three things happen. Either you're going to get no workers, one worker, or some workers. So we did the some workers. Just make sure you tick your availability. They're only available support workers, closest one or cheapest one or best rated one. One worker is a no-brainer. Then if we get no workers, that's where you'd have to sort of depart from that a little bit and start the considerations like what you're talking about. But your answer immediately to that situation is to ignore your unavailability.
You need to take your
Oh,
comments away.
Okay, so there's all my qualified support workers. And then just go gap analyzer. So that will give you clear vision of what gaps exist where, and then you can say, well, yeah, I think I can nudge that one back. Yeah?
Yep.
Now, switching on the overlap band is going to be a bit of a trauma initially, I think.
It's going to really upset me.
Yeah. There's just in your head, like, if I can see a gap there, like if I think I've got to place it in that gap, yeah, then when I go to that worker's roster, you'd want to nudge these shifts down before you put the new shift in, instead of the other way around. So that's only a minor change, because you're going to have to do that at some stage in any case. Because what would happen at the moment is you'd plonk it in and you're in a rush, move on, and then you're going to get an issue from payroll. And it's just going to appear on a list where you've got to fix it anyway. So if you just change your work practice slightly and just go, okay, well, in the first place, you won't be able to roster it over the top. It's going to say it's an overlap. But in the second, you nudge the shifts down before you do the allocation, and that way there's no issues.
So the reason I drop it there first is because I'm visual, I need to be able to see it. So for me to be going from the worker up to unallocated, back to the worker, up to the unallocated, that just, no, that's just a waste of my life. But I will have to learn how to do it.
But you also have to take into account
But I
travel.
also fix the overlaps, I don't leave them there. I mean,
No, I know.
The problem is, you don't, but the
I
majority
know
do.
that, I understand.
And it creates so much work downhill.
I know that.
And, you know,
Just whinging.
I know, but it is a case of the people who make it, you know, who spoil it for everybody else, so you have to close that gate. You know, there might come a time when we can turn it back on, but right now we need to get compliance. We just need to get compliance, because people are just putting it there and going,
Yeah, and that's
you
fine.
go sort it. That's right.
But looking at that, you also have to take into account travel, like make sure you have enough time to get there.
I like my overlaps.
Well, no, this is like a visual look at the gaps where you might be able to put it in with travel.
Yes.
I fix them as I go and then I check it before I send it live.
They're busy
And,
rosters.
you know, very rarely send it live.
So when you double click in there, it brings up the daily diary, can you do the moving of the shifts there?
Yeah, you can.
And will it then nudge it and show, so if at the moment we're using Halo to notify changes of time, the fact that you move it like that, is that a nudge that then generates a Halo ticket if it's moved more than 15 minutes? So we know the client is getting notified, or is it a different type of movement that's not a nudge?
There's going to be a bit of a project on that, around how we get notified.
So how is it supposed to happen at the moment?
How is what's supposed to happen?
Like if you change a shift, so there's the capacity that when there's an edit, like an add, edit, delete, or nudge, or copy or paste, that it'll send a notification to the support worker.
Not copy and paste or anything like that. Only
Just
nudge.
if it's nudged, but it's only if it hasn't moved within an hour, I think, isn't it? Isn't it an hour it's going to be, when you nudge it down, is it an hour?
No.
And then
no.
it sends out an alert?
So if
not
it's-
immediately.
Is it switched on at the moment that the day manager or the rosters are generating an alert to the worker?
As
Or
you-
you
as
just
you
say
do
yes or
it.
no.
Yeah. So you get a choice.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
you do it, it does.
But were you meaning to the
We're
customer?
talking about
Customer, to the
client.
Yeah.
customer.
So we can also have it simultaneously send an email or an SMS if the SMS is set up, but at very least an email to the client.
They're not,
No.
that's
Wouldn't
not,
want
that's
that.
not gonna
No,
work.
no.
Not many clients would actually use an email.
They won't even have it, they don't want it
They don't know how to use a
necessarily.
computer.
They won't
Can
be,
it
they
work?
won't be on it, they won't be looking at it,
So what do you have to do? Do a phone call?
yeah.
Like, we've got the app and that's not even effective.
It is for some,
100%.
yeah, it is for
Yeah,
some.
for
I
some
support
it
that,
is,
stay low, stay low.
Yeah. Well, if they're not looking at emails, they're not going to be looking at apps.
No.
But if they're not
No, but
using the app, they're
they're-
not gonna be
yeah.
looking at emails.
Yeah. Well, true.
More to the point.
But up until recently, we've been sending a message and we've also been phoning, and we've also been juggling, it's just been.
So what's the?
crazy.
I mean,
Or not at
So-
all and getting a complaint.
It's about, yeah, so it's about mitigating all the complaints that we get around not being notified. And then looking at how is that best to be managed. So we've done a little trial just recently around what that might look like moving forward. That's gonna keep the customer happy. That's gonna be actually the most efficient use of time in the organisation. And,
How did that work?
well, very well,
Very well?
very well. So sometimes it is about rearranging, okay, if we're gonna do this at this point, what do we do at that, you know, it is around where do we best do this, because don't forget, we haven't got any customers, we don't exist,
Well,
right?
it might
So,
make,
so what was the trial process? What was the information flow?
the trial process was actually schedulers making that contact with the client.
at
A
the
like a
time
phone
of
call.
making the
Yes.
change.
And then the client says, so instead of going, Halo ticket back, can you please tell them that I got this space? So they finally ring the client, then it comes back, and then it bounces back. Now they can't do that time, then it goes back, then it comes back, and then it goes, there's this tennis match. And so that's never a good process anyway. So it's much more efficient when the client can build a relationship with the scheduler themselves.
So what about SMSing?
Well, the client may not have
A mobile phone. Okay.
They
There
made
are
some
notes
programs.
on some
There are some
sites
that-
saying
that are-
no
yeah.
need to call, send SMS.
Yeah.
But
Data
Yes.
integrity's gotta be up
It's
there.
an
But it's
Probably
individual
every
thing.
100.
But it's got to be accurate,
Correct.
and so you all, when we're doing this stuff, I need you to think about, if you had to do this area, you know nothing about it, how could you do that, get it right, the customer would be happy, the staff would be happy, it'd be efficient, so how would we do that?
Well, we can do it, but
The roster
with
alerts are up
everything.
to date, correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
missing
not.
part is picking the phone up and ringing the client yourself, there and then at the time.
And fixing any other little thing that they've got going on, that's a recurring issue. And it's sitting in 5 tickets in Halo
Yep.
that are blowing out. All that, it's crazy.
All,
Like, don't,
Every time something comes up like this, that always ends up being a big story about Halo and the
Oh,
post
look.
trial that's embedded.
that's why I just want to get all the basics in first. Like, I just want to let's just get it in, let's get it working, let's make sure that people can't make errors, that it's as easy as possible for everybody to use. And we've got all the functionality switched on, so we're not checking on and off, and we're doing all those things and the competencies and all those quick win things that are going to save you 3 hours a day, just like that.
So has anybody else got issues like forward rostering with the overlap situation?
I forward roster, but when I did the trial of this, it's just a change of how you do
Yeah,
things.
correct.
It's just
It's a
mind
mental
yeah.
change.
And look, I then, because of I then got put back on the old one, and to tell you the truth, I was then like, oh, for God's sake, like, you know, like
good.
I got into the mind
Of the new stuff, quick.
yeah, and then I was like, oh, now I need to go back to the old way. Well, not that I was then. It was good because I was then in the mind frame of, okay, I've got to go change that before I actually allocate that.
Yep.
And then I'll probably get a slap on the wrist. But yes, you do then get back in the old habit of, oh, I can allocate it and then go and change it.
So,
And your roster would be fairly tight too,
Yeah,
so
very,
for,
yeah.
if Sophie finds it pretty easy to do, then it shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah.
we have got a plan for this screen here, which is that at this point you could go, and I think this will largely solve your problem, that you can go right click, nudge and insert, or nudge and paste. So it'll take the shift that you're looking to put in there, and it'll push all of these services down to fit them in, and then slot them in there.
And I would assume that if you've locked a service because it's a transport, it won't allow you to do that.
Well, that's why it takes a bit of time, because it's not just as simple as that, because we've got all these business rules in place now. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other thing. So we've got to be careful, but that's what we're looking at. So do you think that would resolve any query, like any of the issues you were talking about?
Yes, but what I was wondering too is when you are in a forward roster and you are making changes, when is the trigger point for actually notifying the client? Because at the moment...
No, that's a different thing.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue.
Because I make changes a week and a half before that's a live roster that they then need to... And I might move it once and then I might... Oh, I've just about finished a roster and then this support worker will hurt himself and have to be pulled out and I've got to move it again and put it somewhere, that sort of thing. That's what I'm just... I got lost, so yeah, just keep rolling, I'll let one over a bit longer.
And this is where we have to think about how much does the staff member see, because we've had complaints from clients about, oh, I keep getting this, and stuff, and I keep getting this, like, you know, what's going on here? I keep, you know, they've changed it 3 times on me already today, like they don't know what they're doing, and mob of
Yeah, they're
drongos.
getting notifications.
So they don't understand it's a process, so it's got to be clear that we do it at the last one.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so that,
But it's the ones who can see it on an app that are seeing the changes,
Yeah.
not the people who we actually make a phone call to.
no,
Yeah,
and
it
they're not
confuses
liking
them.
that.
And they don't care that you've
They
just
could
had
just-
3 support
Of
workers
course not.
pulled out of the one area.
Of course
So
not.
you moved it once, you moved it again, you moved it again.
Yeah,
And then
the
they
same
might
the
get service.
NBN guy. You don't care that he's got to call into somebody else on his way to you, because you're home all day waiting for him. Mate, like, give a rat's about the other client.
Yeah.
Come to my place. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
We're all the same when it comes to that. You know, we're not very considerate of
Yes.
anyone else.
Okay. All right, so that's our process for allocation, like the design process, and obviously we've had all those other changes that we've showed you. But is there anything in that with those 3 different scenarios? Like, we're just searching for suitably qualified available support workers, and we'll get one of 3 results: 1, some, or none. If it's 1, we contact that worker. If it's some, we take the worker who's best star rating, closest, lowest cost, contact them, or you can. I'll just make sure we don't miss.
This is probably a stupid question, but see how you got them colour codes up there, who was available, not available?
Yep.
Would, like the return to work people that we have, that are only allowed so many hours, would that still show them up as available?
Only if you haven't marked them as unavailable.
And then we'd have to
Yeah,
manually
that's-
put
And
that
then what
in.
about if they're a return to work person and you've come into work in a roster that you know nothing about, and I happen to know that worker can't push a wheelchair, she can go to services.
Yeah, so
She
you
can't
don't
push a
roster
wheelchair.
them by mistake.
So how do you prevent that from happening?
Well, you've got your notes over here that would tell you all that, or
So you
not?
could break
Where
it
is it?
down.
So where do those notes come from? Who puts them in?
Yes.
We're going to have a conversation with HR this afternoon.
So this is not about competencies, but this is about.
No, this is about, yeah, this is about them using all our functionality.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like
So-
you don't need to know that they're on their own device.
No,
I don't care.
no.
Is there any way that in the like as a client profile, there can be a button ticked for this client has a wheelchair? And then